Today's lesson is called Solution Sets of Linear Equations in Two Variables. We'll start with an opening exercise that I'd like you to complete on your own. In part A, it says circle all the ordered pairs x, y that are solutions to the equation 4x minus y equals 10. And then in part B, how did you decide whether or not an ordered pair was a solution to the equation? So at this time, please pause the video and then resume the video to check your answers. Okay, for circle all the ordered pairs that are solutions to the equation you were given, you should have gotten 3, 2, negative 1, negative 14, 1, negative 6, 5, 10, and 0, negative 10. For how did you decide whether or not an ordered pair was a solution to the equation? You would want to substitute whatever you have for x and y, so I'll just do x, y like that, in the equation. And the equation was 4x minus y equals 10. And see if the equation balances out. Okay, so let's take a look at linear functions. Let's discover as many additional solutions to the equation 4x minus y equals 10 as possible. Consider the best way to organize all the solutions you have found. So I want you to underline that, the best way to organize. That best way is going to be using a table of values. So for question 1, now find 5 more solutions where one or more variables are negative numbers or non-integer values. Create a table of values with the circled solutions from the opening exercise. So we're going to build off of what we already have in our opening exercise. So I'm going to kind of make a T-chart here where we have our x values and our y values. And we're going to take the values that we have from up above and organize them in ascending order. So we'll start with the lowest x value we have, which is a negative 1. That was negative 1 with negative 14. So that was given to us. And then we have a 0 with negative 10. Then we have a 1 with negative 6, so still going in order. But then we don't have another value till 3. So we have to find out kind of what goes in the middle there. We'll do 3, 2 here. We don't have anything with 4, but we do know that we have 5, 10. So these ones that I've just filled in are the ones we have from our circles up top. So now we can start figuring out how we would fill in the rest of these things. Okay, so if it says include some negatives, why don't we do the point that would have come before negative 114 following the pattern? Hopefully you see going this way, we are adding 4. So if I were to go this way, I'd want to subtract 4. So another point that we could include would be negative 218, negative 18. Okay, now if I think about what's missing here in this gap, I probably could come up with 2. And then what would go in the middle here is we'd have to add 4, so we'd have a negative 2. And we can do the same thing between 3, 2, and 5, 10. We can do 4, and it would be 4 more 6. Now, we also want to remember that we don't have to always use integer values. We have some negatives here, but we haven't used any fractions or decimals. So we could go ahead and think, okay, if 4, 6 is here, what would be halfway between 4, 6, and 5, 10? Well, halfway between 4 and 5 would be 4.5, and then halfway between the 6 and the 10 would be the 8. You could do the same thing going another step past negative 2, negative 18. You could do negative 2.5 and then only do minus 2 to be at negative 20. Okay? So you can continue to do this. And if you wanted to use your calculator, for example, we could get in a solution. I know we already have 5, but if you wanted to use your calculator, you could have a value like 2.4, negative 0.4. So I want you to have all those things written down so that you realize these are all examples of solutions that we could have, and we could continue to find more. So now, in number 2, It says how many ordered pairs x, y will be in the solution set of the equation 4x minus y equals 10. Well, think about this. I could keep finding combination after combination of x and y that are going to work. So this should be infinitely many. Next, in number 3, it says create a visual representation of the solution set by plotting each solution as a point x, y in the coordinate plane. So we'll go up here and we will start plotting these out. Now, -1, -14 is not going to fit on this grid, and that's okay. We'll start with 0, -10, 1, -6. We know that after that was 2, -2, 3, 2. We had 4, 6. Now notice when I'm graphing these, quick review of the coordinate plane. This is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. You always have to go over to the elevator before you can go up or down. So you should be going to the x-axis value first and the y value axis second. Okay, obviously because when you write a coordinate, you have x comma y as your coordinate. So if I continue to do this, 5, 10. Now I could also plot some of these ones that were kind of halfway between 4.5, 8. 4.5 is halfway here and then ends up being about there. So you could continue to do this over and over again. And we'll put for number 3 that we're just going to do this right on the graph. So we created a visual by plotting our points. Now number 4 says, why does it make sense to represent the solution to the equation 4x minus y equals 10 as a line in the coordinate plane? So let's go back up and look at our points. As you can see, they are falling in the pattern of a line. So we're going to go ahead, and if you have a ruler at home, please use it. Okay, I'll do the best I can on here. All right, you're going to create a line. Now you're going to notice a couple things. I want to make sure I have arrows on the end to show that it's going to go on in both directions forever, since we said we have infinitely many solutions. And we also want to make sure that we label with the original equation. So 4x minus y equals 10 is going to be written next to it as the equation of the line. So again, for number 4, why does it make sense to use a line to represent this? This is because any point or ordered pair, x, y, on the line is a solution to the equation. So we're trying to show that these are all the possible answers. So definitely star this one. The fact that any point on a line is a solution to the equation is a very important concept to understand and will come up repeatedly. So we've kind of already tackled number 5. What other details would complete the graph? You want to definitely make sure you have a label. So that means writing the equation of the line on the line. Other things, you have an x-axis, you have the y-axis, and you have the equation, like we said, with your label. All right. Now there are a couple practice questions that I would like you to try. You have number 1 with multiple parts and number 2 with multiple parts. Also, actually, question number 3. So at this time, if you would pause the video, please try the practice questions on your own, then resume the video to check your answers. Okay, now you've had time to practice. We'll go over number 1 first. The difference of 2 numbers is 18. What are the numbers? In part A, they want you to create an equation using 2 variables to represent the situation. And then notice, it says, be sure to explain the meaning of each variable. Those are let statements. So we'll let x equal the first number, and we'll have y, because now we're using 2 variables, different from the last chapter. This will be our second number. So we have x minus y equals 18. Now in B, you can come up with 6 solutions. You may have different ones than I have. I'll give you some examples of mine. -3, -21. I had 2, -16. 9, -9. 0, -18. 6, -12. 24, 6. And as we discussed, we could keep going on forever and ever and ever. So we'll write etc. over here just to remind you that these are just some examples of ones you could have chosen. and we could keep finding more and more. Okay, and number 2, Gia had 25 songs in a playlist composed of songs from her 2 favorite artists, Beyonce and Jennifer Lopez. How many songs did she have by each one in the playlist? First, create an equation using 2 variables to represent the situation. Be sure to explain the meaning. So again, your let statements. I had let X equal the number of Beyonce songs. And then let Y equal the number of J-Lo songs. Together, they are supposed to add up to 25. So my equation would be X plus Y equals 25. And then I wanted you to list at least 3 solutions to the equation that you created. So I specifically had 13 and 12. I had 5 and 20. And I wanted to purposely pick one where one of them was 0. It is possible that you have only Beyonce songs or only J-Lo songs in that list. Okay, and it'll help give you a place where you can tell what the graph is going to look like. But again, these are just examples. There's other options. Now in B, we listed solutions. In part C, we're going to create the graph that represents this. Okay, now you are using the better graph. I still have the other graph. So I will do the best I can with this one. All right, so you'll notice I've kind of marked out the scale because I need to use a different scale from what you see here. You have the better graph. So I'm going to have 25 be at the top, 0 still at the middle. This is 25 as well. Every 2 blocks for me are going to be 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. Same here, 5, 10, 15, 20. And I will use those numbers to create my graph. So I have 25, 0, which is out here. I also had 5, 20. I had 13, 12, which is a little bit hard to place exactly. But if we have these 2 on mine, I can tell it's going to look like this. And I also know that 0, 25 is a point. Just like you could have 25, 0, you can also have 0, 25, which will help me draw my picture. Now, couple of things here that you're going to talk about in question 3. Compare your solutions to practice 1 and 2. How are they alike? How are they different? Okay, they both have solutions that can be verified. In their equation. That's really all they have in common. We were more about the differences here. So first of all, here, I hope you noticed there was no negatives. So in practice 2, we have no negatives, and that's because you can't have a negative number of songs. So you're only in quadrant 1, which you see because you have a better version of the graph. Also, we don't have any arrows. I cannot put arrows on that graph because that would imply that I go down into the negatives, which we know can't happen. So we should have 2 very clear endpoints. And then, of course, I would want to put X plus Y equals 25 as the label for that line. And that concludes our lesson on solution sets of equations in 2 variables.